going on, y'all? I want to welcome you back to the Raw Report. And on today's show, we got a guest, Coach Tsion Michael, a TEDx speaker, HR executive, author, and global advocate. After spending a decade as an undocumented immigrant, she went on to become a 20-year leadership career, having a 20-year leadership in career across more than 40 countries. She's the founder of Inspire Every Life LLC, the host of the Inspire Every Life podcast, and the author of The Aligned Woman. Is it well with your soul? Her message is simple. The world doesn't need the rented version of you. It needs the real one. So without further ado, let's welcome on Miss Tsion Michael. How you doing, Coach?
I am well. Thank you for having me, Coach Wiggins.
No, the honor is mine. So my first question to you is, your story begins with 5 life-changing words. Your future is illegal. Take us back to that moment. Who were you before hearing those words, and what changed afterwards?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. Well, who I was a budding advocate. Even in my high school years, I created programs to heighten African American history and assemblies that would bring people together, tearing down walls, introducing multiculturalism to a school that was predominantly white, and I was one of the only different individuals. So I had gotten accommodations from my principal. I was graduating top of my class. I earned the respect of my peers. And I knew I could take on the world and change it. I really wanted to make this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
I had these really high and lofty goals for myself, and I wanted to do that in the legal field, to bring equity and justice to everybody, because I felt that deeply, that there was a disparity here in the United States, and just even how people get their education, like what books that we were getting. So I would champion the type of books that we would get, and when I was in an all black neighborhood versus when I ended up moving to an area where it was all white people. So I was a go-getter at a
Mm-hmm.
very young age.
Okay, so what you explained, at least the way I heard it, that was before you heard those words. What happened after those words?
Yes, so how I found out that I was undocumented was a routine visit with my guidance counselor, Mr. Johnson. Had a great relationship with him, but he said that, as we were going through my college applications, I was actually applying to all kinds of Ivy League schools, just all kinds of schools. And he basically told me, look, your future in America is illegal. And I
Wow.
didn't understand what that meant. And he said, go home and talk to your mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he had advised me to live a low profile, basically, in that meeting. And I was like, a low profile? What does that mean? And he was like, your mother will explain it to you. So I go home, and that's when everything changed. It felt like the bottom had been, pulled out from underneath me. I found out the majority of scholarships that I was going for really weren't going to be for me because I was undocumented. I found out that I couldn't have a license. I found out all of these things were going to be delayed in my life, and the potential of being deported. So when you live under those circumstances, you can't make a lot of noise. You can't make a lot of waves. So I went into what I call a rented identity.
So how did that make you feel, knowing that you put in so much work to be the top of your class and put
Yeah.
so much time into becoming everything that they told you you could be, and then all of a sudden had the rug pulled off from up under you? How did that make you feel?
I was devastated,
I'm
coach. I
sure.
was I was devastated, and I was like, I wonder why nobody ever told me, because I probably wouldn't have been
A
such an
stellar kid.
advocate for
Right.
equal rights. I was studying people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. I was all about bringing equity. And what I learned in the process of living in different states and different communities, not everybody had access to everything that I was having access to, and I wondered why and how could I help. So that it was like a an abrupt halt, and I had to reconvene. And my mother gave me some advice. She was like, "Look, I can't help you."
Mm-hmm.
She literally said that. She was like, "I can't help you." She said, "The Lord brought you this far. He'll get you through the rest of the way."
Ooh.
And she was like, "If you want college," she said, "it's not impossible. You're just gonna have to work." She said, "Whatever you do from here on out, you'll have to work really hard to be able to obtain it." So, and in my family, we weren't the kind of crying type of females. She was just like, this is the situation for all of us. She was like, I'm proud of you because you took college classes while you were in school. You graduated at the top of your class. She was like, don't let this be the thing that stops you. And I was like, okay. So I had to go back and reconvene. And I still ended up going to college, but I was working during the day and going to school at night and paying for one class at a time, if you will, and taking that road. And it was stifling in the sense that I couldn't be the advocate that I knew I could be for people who were still caught, because I was still in the same net and I didn't know it.
Right. And I can only imagine where you would be if that didn't derail you. You probably would be in the top of politics right now, 100%. My question is, and this it's on the same track, but it's kind of off a little bit. Do you think that's where you developed your grit from to do all the things that you've done,
Mhm.
because finding that out and knowing that you had to work harder?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Coach. I'm glad I didn't have the citizenship at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Being undocumented was actually a gift,
In what way?
because in a sense that it introduced me to me.
Ooh.
It was the beginning of me becoming to understand. I had to understand because I could go to Harvard. I was one of those kids that got in, uh, and I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
No one that I didn't have
What
any.
DEI? I
No,
got
sir.
you.
No,
I
sir.
got
My sisters went there.
you.
So we all were high achievers because of the potential we knew we had on the inside of us, and there was always like this thing that our family was known for. Even in our community, we were very different.
Mm-hmm.
So what that did, and I realized this in I think it was a conversation with my sister. She was like, "So what? A paper is going to define who you are?" She was like, "If you go into any organization," because she was further along than I was. She was like, "If you go into any organization, if you work anywhere, it's going to be you and your efforts, not that degree, because that
Mm-hmm.
degree can possibly get you in the door, but you gotta continue to show up every single day." She was like, "So it's really gonna be about you." She's like, "So what can you do?" Because I talked to her about it, and I was like, "That was not the answer." That was not
Wow. At all.
My family wasn't the type of family. I had a lot of women around me, but women that made no excuses. So it actually was the beginning of me beginning to ask myself the right questions, um, that I needed in order for the true me to come out. So there were aspects of what I call renting that I
Mm-hmm.
did because I couldn't fully come out the way I wanted to, but I was still winning in some other areas. If that
That
I
makes sense.
couldn't be the global advocate that I am now, but I don't think that I was poised for it in my early 20s, to be honest. It's a huge weight, it's a huge responsibility to be able to speak on behalf of others who are voiceless. And I think I had to go through the scenic route, if you will. Not everybody does, but I earned it and I worked with God to do it. So it was a co-laboring, and there was trial and error, and there was a lot of starts and stops. So I'm thankful I didn't go into politics right away, or I didn't become a lawyer right away. I got there eventually, got to some
Right.
of these places eventually. But now I'm sitting in and living in my own identity, and I want to help others get there as well, because not everybody is going to understand what it means to be undocumented.
Right. And just listening at you, You didn't. You said the scenic route. No, you went through the grassroots route, which is what most people don't do. But
Yeah.
that taught you a lot of stuff, experience that a lot of people don't have when they get to those top political, because they went to the straight to the top and didn't go through the grassroots. So they
Mhm.
don't know the people like you do.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
my next question: you spent nearly a decade living in the shadows as an
Mhm.
undocumented immigrant. What did
Mhm.
that season teach you about fear, identity, and hope?
It taught me a lot about fear. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I woke up every day with fear.
Mm,
Fear was a friend, if you
wow.
will. So I remember being 23 and landing a job on Wall Street. My family was like, I don't know how you did that. And I was like, I don't either, to be quite honest with you. But I wanted to move to New York because I wanted to know if I could do it on my own merit.
Right.
I wanted to see. And so once I landed it, my sisters came to visit me and they were like, "You work here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is my office." you know, and I was like, "Yeah," because that's where I saw myself. So even though fear was always there, I didn't allow it to be in the driver's seat. It could be in the car,
Right.
but it had to take a back seat. And I think you also, because I always had, and I think you said something about hope. I always had this hope that I would get there because I was sincere in my intentions to make whatever space that I was in better. So if I was working for an organization and my job was as an accountant, then I was going to do the best that I can do every single day in that arena, because I spent many years in my career working as an accountant, and then I moved into finance and those kinds of things. But um I had both. I think you said a third thing. I can't remember. You said fear.
Hope.
Okay, so hope
Fear,
was
identity, and hope.
okay. So the identity piece is the one that got me,
Okay.
because a lot of times I didn't always fit in to whatever area I was in. I always felt like a stranger in America. So I always I struggled with that. I struggled with that because I wasn't quite black enough. I wasn't quite white enough. wasn't quite mixed enough. So you're not black and you're not white. So what are you?
Right.
So and it depends on what people's understanding of being quote unquote Eritrean. That even wasn't a country at the time. So then I'd say Ethiopia, but then we're in a war with Ethiopia. So there were all of these factors. And so for me, I had to come out of pleasing people,
Hmm.
culture, my family, and all of those things to emerge as me. And it was a step by step by step by step process. And I rented for a long time. And so when you're renting your identity, let me clarify that. When you're renting, you are not fully showing up as your true self. You are showing up as the version of yourself that you believe that environment can handle.
Hmm. Okay.
Could be your family, could be your workplace, it could be your place of worship, whatever. And so I would keep people at a distance.
Hmm.
So people really never got to know what I really thought, because I was radical in my thought process. I was born a radical.
Right.
You know, I was a revolutionary out the womb because I was born in the middle of a war. My
Wow.
father's a revolutionary.
Hmm.
You know how they talk about the revolution will not be televised?
Hmm.
It wasn't even a talking about it. He was a revolution. Everything he did was revolutionary. He never did anything normal. He never fit it. Like he was always creating his own boxes. So when you grow up with a polymath like that, you become like that. So your thoughts are considered very like, oh, that's strange. I remember being in college and there was a representative, I think he was a Republican. He was asking questions about Christianity. And I raised my hand. I said, no, I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. And I didn't get a good grade in his class, but I stood by my morals and my values, because I'm like, you're not going to come in here and tell me what to believe about something that has been going on long before your people even stepped on the scene.
Right.
So I've always been radical in that sense. And I wasn't comfortable to really to share a lot of those things. And I know it's you have to share things that's appropriate, but at the same time, I don't believe in masking who you are or your greatness.
All right. I totally agree. You have to let it all out because somebody can learn from those wounds that you're hiding.
Yeah.
Um, your family's immigration story was connected to your father's sacrifice and liberation of Eritrea.
Hmm.
Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong.
No, you got it. Hmm.
Okay. How have you learned to hold both the consequences of his decision and the courage behind it?
For a long time, I didn't understand it.
Oh wow.
I couldn't understand how you would do that,
Mm-hmm.
because he never left because there was something wrong with my mother or us as kids. Were we bad behaved? We were some of the most excellent kids. I mean, our community people could tell you. They were like, we haven't seen four kids like that. So it was difficult for me to understand as a child. But as I grew up and became a woman and understood that if you don't stand for something in this world, you will fall for anything. And sometimes that requires sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to think back. I remember being an adult because during the revolutionary periods of times, I was separated from my father for about 15, 17 years. And when he came back to the States, he came back and I began to ask questions. And I didn't know how he had to smuggle us out of Ethiopia. I didn't know how expensive it was to smuggle me out. He
Mm-hmm.
could have left us there because he was on the run basically. The Ethiopian government wanted him. They weren't successful and we split. And once I started to understand all of the sacrifices he made just so that we could be in America, it all became I could accept it. I was like, wow. And these were things that he never shared with us. Like he never, I don't know why, but he was like, well, no, it's just the things that I did and what I had to do. And other people to smuggle us out put their lives on the line,
All right.
to help us get to a place of freedom so that we wouldn't have to be in prison as well. So it was a difficult day by day walk. And I think that's probably why I struggle so much in my identity, because there was no one there to encourage and say, you are this. But there was always this inner tutor that I tell people about. There was always this thing that I knew that the Holy Spirit was leading, guiding, directing me, and I knew that my name had a meaning. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I was a daughter to a king,
Mm-hmm.
because I saw how he was treated in the places we went. I mean, we took trips in London and he was working with these individuals, and I saw how he worked in Manhattan and different places that he, gave us that opportunity to travel with him and see him in action and speaking Italian and speaking English and Spanish and all the just the way he operated and moved. I realized I'm like, wow, he's not normal. He's
Right.
different.
That don't even sound normal, but yes.
And that was in the 60s. And
Right.
he was running global companies from Africa to the United Kingdom to the United States. So I knew that if he could do it, I could.
And you're doing it. I will say that. So that's amazing, actually. That whole, and it's so deep. I can probably go into that itself. That's a whole nother episode. But let's go back to this. You said rented identity. I know you did your TEDx talk on the rented identity,
I did.
and you kind of leaned into it a little bit. But I'm gonna push you to go into a little bit more. What does that mean for someone? How can they recognize when they are living as a restricted or the performance version of themselves? How can they recognize that?
I always tell my daughter this. I said, tonight, um, if you ever get a check in your gut
Mm-hmm.
that something's not right
Mm-hmm.
and tells you not to proceed or tells you this or tells you that, gives you an unction, you never, ever miscount that. So for me, the first way I could share with your audience that they would know if they're renting is that You wake up in the morning, you're not excited about your life. And you know how they say in this society, they say things like, drudging that Monday. It's Friday. I never
Right.
understood that. I'm like,
It's
it's,
backwards. Yeah,
why are
right.
why are you celebrating that it's Friday? Because you don't like your Monday.
Right.
You can't stand them. You can't stand the people that you work with. You don't like your boss. You don't like so. And I realized this because I heard this said by my mentor. She and another mentor. He was as I became a believer. He said he would say this to me, and he said this to my daughter. He was like, anything you don't like about yourself, you have the power to change it right now.
Amen. Mm,
His name was Michael Riley. Shout out to you, brother
that's
Riley.
good. That's good.
And he was like, so let me tell you something. He was talking to my daughter. He was like, let me tell you something, because he was mentoring her. He said, let me tell you something. What is it that you don't like? You don't like your attitude. You don't like your position. You don't like how you look. Because he was big on being an athlete, former basketball player. So whatever you don't like, you have the power to change. And I think that people have been disarmed. They've allowed others to take their personal power away. So for me, when I was feeling that discontentment rise up in my soul. Now you got to know your soul. You can't
Hmm.
drown it out with drinking and all that stuff that people medicate and
Smoking and
all
all.
that weed and all you doing. You know why you're doing that? I know why you're doing it. I hope you do.
Why?
I know why you're doing it.
Why?
Because you're trying to numb
Yeah. That's it.
this sense inside of you that this is not enough. So that's the first thing. You wake up in the morning, you're not excited about your life. You looking over there at your partner being like, dang, not like dang, like, ooh. You're like,
What am I doing?
Lord have mercy.
What I get myself into?
What I get myself into. Listen, whatever you got yourself into that is not you, that
Hmm.
doesn't have capacity for your next, is an indication you're not with the right people around you. It could be your friend group, it could be your work environment, it could be your partner. You better have the right purpose partner,
Right.
right? So that's one sign. And another sign is you are in a conversation, and rather than speak your mind, you shrink.
Hmm.
Rather than say what you truly believe in an articulate and kind manner. There is the truth, but you can speak the truth in love. You don't have to withhold that. There is also another thing I think that we do in relationship. We pacify people.
Okay. Explain that a little bit.
So we don't, rather than ruffle the feathers. I'll give you an example. When I was 17, I went to an all-white school. I was looking at their books. I was like, where's the African American contribution to
Hmm.
this nation? African Americans have built this nation. Where is that? So
Hmm.
I went to the PTA meetings. That's where
At
parents show up.
17?
Oh, yeah, I was doing that at
Wow.
13, 14,
Wow.
15.
Okay.
So I encouraged the parents to speak up. This is American history. It
Right.
shouldn't leave these people out because you're
Right.
not comfortable with it. So then the books got changed. Then I was like, well, there are some people here at this school that feel, not they don't feel comfortable here. So what can we do to help them? Why don't we start celebrating African American history? Why don't we start putting assemblies together that would help to teach people about their own prejudices and their own biases? These are uncomfortable conversations, but I was
Right.
willing to have them with the principal, with the vice principal, with the head of the PTA, because I understood that there was a demographic in the middle school and high school that didn't feel like they could even speak up.
Right.
So that's just a small example, but you're not supposed to be in a place to keep everything copacetic. You're here as a change agent. And I'm not saying you have to make the change the way I was doing it, but if you're just, getting along, go along to get along, then you might be missing an opportunity.
I honestly believe, yeah, it is definitely an opportunity being missed. So I'm like astounded to find out like your advocacy goes back so far because we've never even talked about that, and I'm sitting there like, wow, this is you've been doing this as a child, so that's why you so
Mhm.
like. Does it make it hard for you that everything that you are fighting for it seems like all of a sudden, I'm just saying, I'm thinking over my life, I'm thinking about right now. All of a sudden, within the last 5, 6 years, that the opposite side has raising their head up, like pushing back against everything that you fight for. Does
I
that?
like I
How does that
like
make
a
you feel?
fight. I like a
No.
fight.
Okay, you like a fight. Okay, ain't nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that.
I was born a fighter.
Okay,
And I was born in the middle of a war. And that
mm-hmm.
says a lot about me.
Right.
So this is a year of war,
Mm-hmm.
probably from now until we go on to be, go on to another state. There's nothing in this life that will not require a level of warfare.
Amen.
And if it's a war they want, it's a war they're going to get. But we fight differently in the kingdom.
Right. It's spiritual.
Yeah, we advocate for those that don't have,
Mm-hmm.
either have access to education or have equal opportunity. Because as much as difficult as my road was, my mind thinks to all the people who are just like me that were born in Eritrea and born in Ethiopia and can't express and bring expression to their gifts
Mm-hmm.
like I was able to. And I think back to those that are undocumented, even in this country, waking up every day. They actually contribute to the GDP just like I did. I always paid taxes.
Right.
I had a social security number since
Right.
I was 17 and started working. So I'm a viable member
Of the community.
of the community. I was always volunteering. My dad required us to volunteer. Like he was like, you go to school, but you
Right.
work in the community. You can you tutor someone? Okay, you
Right.
tutor. Can you pick up trash? You pick up trash. So that was always built into us because that's what Eritrean people do. That's how or actually our family, I don't know if all of them do that, but our family did that. So it's interesting to me that we live in a society that says immigrants are not welcome when that's what this country was
I would
built.
say everybody is built. Everybody immigrants. Every single person.
So nobody's indigenous to the United States that's here,
Right.
very few, or I shouldn't say nobody. There are
Right.
populations.
You know, you said it. Very few. It's
Very
very, very few.
so for me to hear that, I know that that Arise and Shine Global, that this advocacy that I'm doing, it's actually coming at the right time.
It's in the right vein for sure.
It, and I know that I never really understood why I had to go through what I went through. Um, I figured, okay, it's just a part of, I guess I'm like many people, but now it is all making sense in
That was preparation for where you get right now.
yeah, yeah.
So that leads into my next question. After gaining citizenship and
Yes.
achieving professional success, did you immediately feel free? Were there parts of you that still felt like your identity was rented that followed you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes and yes.
Mm.
So I looked at those papers. I remember being with my dad. My dad had come back to the United States and he had given me some advice. He said, Sion, there's coming a day where people like you will not be tolerated. And I said, people like me? He said,
Right.
yes, people who are undocumented. He said, there's coming a day. He said, let me help you. I will help you gain your citizenship because he had connections to the embassy, United States Embassy. He had advocated on Capitol Hill. He had all of these different connections, right? And he knew the right people to talk to because I was having a difficult time identifying that little girl in that picture on that passport and that residency card as me.
Mm-hmm.
And so him coming in to help me, that I was like, wow, this is great. But I still didn't understand what he was talking about. That day that he's talking about is this day here.
You're right.
And
Oh,
when I got the paperwork in my hands, it was like, wow, this part of my struggle is finally over. It took years, for me to get there because you still have to go through the process and all of that, the naturalization and so forth. But I realized I said, Lord, okay, now who am I now?
mm-hmm.
And what is my purpose here in the United States? Because I've always thought that my purpose was to go back home. and make
Mm-hmm.
my country better. So, because all those years I couldn't travel outside of the United States, you can't, you know, things like buying a home, all those things, you might not want to do that because, or if you do, you have to kind of do it the illegal way, and I didn't want to do that. So for me, I still had questions about my identity. And so my father, I think, played a big role in that,
Mm-hmm.
in him coming back. And then also giving me that level of leadership to know that, you know, you still have a purpose here. You still have work to do here. Because, you know, my thought was like, okay, I got my citizenship. I'm going back. I'm leaving. I'm done.
Right.
But that wasn't God's plan.
Okay, so you say there is a superpower hidden in every womb that did not destroy you. What superpower emerged from your own womb?
My superpower is in my name.
Mm-hmm.
My full name is Tsion Michael.
Okay.
So my first name is Zion in the Bible. So Zion is a place of refuge. It's a
Mm-hmm.
sanctuary. It's a highway, and it's a place where heaven meets earth.
Oh wow.
So it's like an altar. It's a holy place. So people can come in and find refuge. As soon as I began to understand that biblically, because I had to go to the Bible to really understand my name, I understood my father's story behind why he named me that. And, you know, he married my mother in a church called Mount Zion in Ethiopia and all of those beautiful things, romantic things. But beyond that, it began to share with me who I am
Mm-hmm.
and who I'm supposed to be in the earth for others,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what I'm supposed to do is what I should say. So for me, it was understanding that my purpose is connected to helping humanity move forward, bringing people together, um, respecting our differences.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that we're all from different tribes and tongues and kindreds, but we can all coexist in a peaceful way, not in a way that tears one group down or builds another one up, but also makes space for the strangers.
Right.
Psalm 68, you know, puts the stranger in a family. That's what happened with me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we were strangers in this land,
Right.
you know, but God in his sovereignty gave us that opportunity to be in, I think, one of the greatest nations.
Oh no, that's so good. Oh, that's deep. So how do we honor the resilience that helped us survive without allowing survival mode to control
Hmm.
the rest of our lives?
That's a good word because I was in survival mode for a long time.
I'm sure.
So when you're surviving, you don't thrive. You just going from day to day.
Even though you was working on Wall Street and doing all that stuff, you didn't
Yeah.
see that as you didn't think that was
You know,
su-
it was so it impressed so many people. Like they were so surprised. And I'm like, but why
right.
are you
But you was still in,
surprised?
I'm saying, but you was still in survival mode at that moment. You think?
I wouldn't say, yeah, in terms of my soul.
Right. Okay.
Financially, I was great because I
I'm
could
talking
help
about your soul. Yeah,
my
I'm with you.
soul.
Right.
Yeah, I was in survival mode. And I think because when you come out of war and you come out of being in hostility and still your family is still in pieces because your family members keep dying overseas. They're hungry, they're needy, and so my mom's affection was always split. My mother was a hero to her family back home, but not present to our family. My dad was absolutely gone. So, you know, you are just trying to make it day to day. And so we as siblings, we pretty much raised ourselves because
Wow.
there was no one at home, you know. So when you live like that, and you're always like having to be street smart, you know. So by the time I showed up in New York, I was like, ain't nothing y'all can do.
Right.
I got you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got this, right?
Right.
Because I was like, I've been doing this since I was a child, you know? I would have to like make my own businesses, sell candy, do some that to get, you know, a few coins here and there. But I think that really turned me into the entrepreneur that I am now, the big thinker kind of person because I've had to have this type of mentality. But there's a point where I remember in my adulthood was like, I'm tired of striving in this way
Mm-hmm.
because I'm tired and I don't want to be, I shouldn't be this young and this tired. So, I wanted to live differently. And I said, well, if we're living in one of the greatest nations in the world, then I possibly could do that, but no one else was doing that.
Right.
I just wanted to do it. So for me, I learned that um, you can create the life. And I heard a person speaking. I think she's my mentor now. Her name is Dr. Cindy Trim, and she said something to the screen because I didn't know her at the time. She said, "Could things be the way they are because you are the way you are?"
Oh, that's good.
And I
Okay,
was like,
can you expound that?
meaning your life is a kamikaze of
Mm-hmm.
your choices
Mm-hmm.
and your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't keep pointing the finger at no one else.
Right.
And luckily for me, because I felt so fortunate to be in the United States, and I felt fortunate to have a mom that didn't pawn me off to private schools or, other schools. That's what a lot of people were doing, like pawning their kids off. If their husband left, then they pawn their kids off to this person, that person. And she kept the family together. And so I always felt very fortunate to have the kind of mother that I did and the father that I did. So there was nothing that I had to blame anybody for. I didn't blame my siblings for anything. So I never had those issues. But my issue was, can the people around me handle the real me?
Mm.
Right.
Wow.
And so the moment I got over that, and this is another thing that Dr. Trim said. She said, what's the one thing that you can change that will change everything?
That's deep.
So that's the how you become more of you. You start
Mm-hmm.
asking yourself these introspective questions that will help you get to who you truly are.
Okay. So your work primarily focuses on purpose and alignment.
Hmm.
What is the difference between being successful and being truly aligned?
So when a person, there's plenty of people that are successful financially.
Right.
There are plenty of people that are successfully married and they have kids. But can I just stop right here and say, if you are a mom, you're a father, you're a brother, your sister, did you know those are just roles? That's not who you are.
Right.
If you are a CEO, Dr. Coco, Chanel, all of y'all, with the letters in front of your name, can I just say that's not who you are?
Mm.
You can't take all of that. I mean, you can, Apostle so and so, Deacon Jones.
Pro-
You can't
yeah.
take none of that with you.
Right.
You still left with you.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, why not we focus on who we are? I remember living in the DMV, right? My daughter was like this because she would go to all these parties and different things, and she'd be like, because she's high society type of things, and she'd like, Mom, they keep asking me after they ask me my name, they ask me what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that's what they want to know, because that's what they think is important.
Right.
So not that it's not important, but the better question is, who are you?
Mm.
So if you can't come to that place of alignment, like I just expressed before, like understanding what my name is
Mm-hmm.
and what it means and who I am, and beginning to own that without worrying about how others might like it, don't like it, you don't like me, you da da da. I'm not here for you to like me. You don't have to like me, but you will respect me.
Amen. So, for someone who feels successful on paper
Mm-hmm.
but disconnected internally, what
Right.
questions should they begin to ask themselves?
That's a good question. Because I think a lot of people, Coach Wiggins, are actually in that because we live in a Western society. So, in a lot of Western cultures, they focus on training people in what they do and not
Mm-hmm.
who they are. And there's a big difference in the roles you play versus the person that you are. Because once those roles go away, you're still left with you. So, I would begin to ask myself a set of questions, and I would allow myself the time to have a pen and a paper,
Mm-hmm.
and or whatever document way you want to document that, and say, okay, what is my happy quotient? Am I happy with my life? Am I happy with my body? Do I like me? Do I like spending time with me? Do I enjoy my own company? I'll say this to your audience: a better I is a better me. A better
Mm.
me is a better we. A better we is a better us. A better us is a better family. A better family is a better community. A better community is a better nation. We have to get down to this place of not looking at time that we spend with ourselves as selfish. It's actually the most selfless thing you can do, because if you are more satisfied and happy and content with you, then the people around you will be more at ease with you. But if you don't like you and you don't like spending time with you, how do you expect others to do that? So for me, it's key to share that you have to begin to ask yourself, what are the things about my life that are inconsistent with who I know that I am on the inside, but my outside world doesn't reflect that, financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, socially, physiologically, internally, in all those areas, because you are a whole person. You're not a fragmented person. So my encouragement is, stop living fragmented. Like, take the time and take an hour a day for something called me moments, where you're able to ask yourself these questions and you're able to interview you and hear yourself talk. Because oftentimes we don't do that. We don't spend time in solitude. And I share a little bit of that in my TED talk, that I needed to go inward to what I call inner space, because that is the greatest travel you will ever experience as a living soul, is that time with you. And that one-on-one time with you is really your sanctuary. It's that time with you and God. God will begin to reflect to you who you are, and then eventually what your purpose is. And eventually you'll get to that place of alignment. It's a step-by-step process.
Wow, that's so good, man. I hope y'all heard everything she said. So, fear often disguises itself as wisdom,
Hmm.
responsibility, or even practicality. How did you learn the difference, or learn to tell the difference between genuine discernment or the fear that's keeping people small?
The word of God. I remember after having my baby, the Lord challenged me and said, because I was still, working, you know, highfalutin places in New York and stuff like that, and He told me to stay home and study the Bible.
Hmm.
Oh, study the Bible? I mean, I need to work.
Let's go put some money on the table. Right. Like, what are we talking about here?
Already had a savings and things like that. But when I started studying the Word, and for the first time in my life, the Word, because it's a spiritual text, because I was an intellectual,
Mm-hmm.
highly intellectual individual. Everything was analytical. That's why I could process things and function at that high level. So, but this time when I started reading the Bible, because I had been reading the Bible throughout my young, life, but I
Right.
could never understand it.
Right.
That word became real to me, Coach Wiggins, and I started to understand it. So you
Wow.
need to see that the word of God, you got to measure your quote unquote wisdom, because there's a wisdom that's earthly, ladies and gentlemen, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a wisdom that's godly.
Right.
There's a godly fear, and there's an unnatural fear that will just stagnate you and hold you back. There is good understanding, and then there's the understanding of the world, like, do what thou wilt. No, don't do that.
Don't do that. Right.
So there's a difference, and I say that the Bible, I don't have one right next to me, but the Bible is your manual, is your basis point, that you weigh everything out in your life in terms of what you are doing, who you are to become. A lot of people be like, I don't know who I am and I don't know my purpose. Have you opened up the book? Have you
Right.
gone to the book of Psalms? Maybe
Right.
even looked at the life of Joshua or Joseph or Esther or Deborah, and begin to take note, or Jesus for that matter. Why not him first, right? So, take that, to me, that's the basis point for everything. So once I started getting acquainted with the word and having a relationship with the word of God, and began to really trust the word of God, not a mental assent, not an intellectual assent, a deep understanding, like, He is my God. Whether I can see him or track him or trace him, this word gives me the instruction that I need.
So, from that, and I agree with everything you just said, what habits, practices, or personal systems did you develop in that time to help move you from survival mode to intentional living?
Prayer.
That that's honestly what's crazy when you say that is making me think about it. It's like that's almost a lost art in everything we do these days. Like church, everything. It's like people missing prayer. That it sounds simple, but that's the biggest part of everything. Can
Can I
you
tell
please
you?
speak on that some?
Yeah, so my grandmother decided to bless us and come to America when I was a child. She spent some years because my mother was having a baby. My dad and my mom had a baby. Eritrea is my younger sister. So it was the best time in my life because I got to meet this woman, right? Because we were so disconnected. It was a war, so we couldn't go there, but she could come here. Took years to get here, but she got here. My mom was so happy. I was so happy. She stayed with us the majority of the time. And I shared a room with her, Mama Gimja. Mama Gimja's up at 4 a.m., dressed. She had this thing where she kneel, and she had these things where she'd like pray, pray, pray. And it's in a language I speak Tigrinya. I understand Amharic. I speak Amharic, and I'm listening to her, and I'm like, what language is that? What is that language? Because she's waking me up.
All right.
And I used to be mad because I was the youngest, so I had to share a room with grandma. But that was the first woman that I saw walk her faith. That was the first woman that I saw that would speak in what I thought were parables, but they were proverbs. That she would counsel my mother. She would counsel my father. She would counsel us. She would walk the walk and talk the talk. But that was a woman of prayer. And then I found out, oh, on my dad's side, they were all priests. They helped to start all of the churches in Eritrea. And I was like, oh, we're a family of priests. Wow, okay. So they pray. We pray. And my mom introduced prayer to me at the age of 3 when we were in Djibouti. We were still in Africa. We were trying to get to the United States. And my mom would say, you get in the room and pray. And I'm like, you're not coming? I mean, we gonna leave me here? So
Right.
so she would make me and my sisters go and pray
Right.
before we would go out and play. She said, you want to play? You see that beach? Yeah, you can go there after you pray. I have my own time. You have your own time with God. She shut the
Wow.
door, and then she'd rely on my older sister to tell the truth if like we did pray, if we was just play praying.
Hmm.
So we learned how to pray. And that was the only thing that I believe truly navigated me out of a life of fear
Oh,
and
that's good.
survival.
Oh, that's so good.
But I saw it. I saw them do it.
No, and I'm glad you're speaking on it because we need to teach this
Yeah.
next generation that prayer is everything. It's not small. It's everything. So you spent 20 years in finance and human service and
Mm-hmm.
leadership in across more than 40 countries.
Mm-hmm.
What have those experiences taught you about universal human need to feel seen, valued, and included?
You know what it taught me a lot about is the fear of man.
Mm, okay.
So a lot of times people need a title to be a leader, or they
Okay.
think if they have a title, then that makes them a leader. And then people are afraid of other people because they think, oh, this person can fire me or this can happen to me if I don't acquiesce and do this or that. So I saw a lot of fear dynamics play out. I saw a lot of leadership as well. And I was able to work among the best of the best in either finance or accounting. And there were different men that took me on and mentored me here and there. And there were some women that were key to my development. I had this one leader that would constantly I mean, she would bring me stacks of books. She was like, you need to know this by next week, and just leave the room. I'll be like, wow.
Right.
But she was making me better. And then
Right.
she was the one that said, Sion, you need to go get that master's in business. That's what you need to do. And then she would leave. Like there was no explanation as to why would I. And then my dad had told me to do it too. And I was like, oh, I don't need that. I'm fine, kind of thing. And I did it. So glad I did because I learned and met more people in different spaces of higher education. So I learned how people operate, different leadership styles. What makes a person a great leader? What makes a person a titan leader? What makes a person an average leader? What makes people a manager, like a micromanager? So I've experienced all of those things, and I realized that the best type of leadership in my book is servant leadership because that's what I learned from watching Jesus.
Right.
So he to me was the greatest leader
Of
known to
all
man.
time. Right. 100%.
Hmm.
So you co-founded Arise and Shine Global
Hmm.
with your father. What
Yes.
does building that organization together mean to you, and how has your personal journey shaped this mission?
It means the world to me to be able to have this opportunity to build legacy with my father. And again, if I didn't ask questions, I wouldn't have known. I was in a place where I was being mentored, and one of the coaches there said, "Sounds like this is something that your father has already done." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if he's done humanitarian work." I couldn't say, you know what I mean? I didn't even know. I didn't know to even ask him. So when I asked him, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I started 5 nonprofits. I've done this and that outside of the Eritrean liberation movement." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So for when I pitched my idea to him, he was very open. And then he also left me a lot of homework. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, you have to do things in decent order," because he's a CPA by trade. So he kind of gave me the structure that I needed. So it means so much to me to be able to have his blessing. The
Mm-hmm.
blessing of a father is so important. Whether it's a spiritual father, a spiritual mother, it's good for us as people of God to know how to be under authority, but also how to operate in authority.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've learned so much just in this short period of time of working with him.
I love that. And how did it shape your mission?
It absolutely transformed the mission because in its infancy stages, I thought we were only going to help Eritrean refugees because there is a global crisis of young people fleeing Eritrea because of the governmental situation there.
Mm-hmm.
But as God began to reveal more and more of the plan, the mission, I repitched the idea, and this is based off of a scripture in the Bible, where in the book of Isaiah, where it says, "Arise and shine, for your light has come. Gross darkness has covered the whole earth,
Mm-hmm.
but the light, the glory of God has risen upon you." And so this is the hope to the refugee, to the immigrant, to the undocumented all over the world. So our mission went from helping one nation to all the nations because mass immigration from one country to another country is a silent global crisis
Right.
that nobody is really truly addressing. So that is our hope. It's basically we're David and it's Goliath.
No, no, no. I like that because when you even say it that way, it's basically all they doing is shifting it from one place to the other to another. Ain't nobody solving the problem. So I'm
No.
glad that you're out there tackling it.
Hmm.
The title of your book says, "Is it well with your soul?"
Hmm.
When everything looks successful externally, how can someone honestly determine whether it's truly well within?
They have to do the assessment, and I have an assessment that can be found on inspireeverylife.org. And in there, there's a free assessment that could be your first step. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just looking at your life. There's a model that I learned in business called the Addy model. So the first step in the Addy model is assess. So if you don't know what you have, like let's just say financially, in the financial, there are 10 dimensions of well-being that I share in the book. 10. So financial well-being is one of them. So in that, let's say category, you first have to look at everything that you have, all of the expenses, all of the income coming in, everywhere that you are hopefully giving and sharing some of the blessings that God is giving to you to other organizations, nonprofits, etc. And then begin to ask yourself, are you satisfied with what you see in your bank account? Is that enough for the mission that you have? And if it's not, how to close that gap. So it all starts with an assessment, and then it starts with questions that you ask within the assessment. And that assessment can take you about 20 minutes. initially, but 20 minutes to save you 10 years, 20 years of going in the wrong direction is well worth it.
Ooh, I love that. So y'all heard it. Go to inspireeverylife.org
Yep, there's
and
a
go
free
take that
assessment.
assessment, y'all.
Mhm.
So this is the part of the show where we do rapid fire questions. So it's one word answers or one sentence.
Okay,
Are you okay with that?
yeah.
Okay. A belief you had to unlearn.
I am not enough.
A word that describes your current season.
Outstanding.
Wow. A habit that keeps you aligned.
Prayer.
A lesson you learned from your father.
You're a global citizen.
Something your 17-year-old self would be proud of you.
That I finally finished law school.
That's good. Freedom is,
Love.
purpose is,
Wholeness.
alignment feels like,
Contentment.
one thing your soul needs more of.
Unity with God.
What is one dream you are still growing into?
What is one dream I'm still growing into? The completion of a Rise and Shine mission. I don't know that it'll ever be complete, but all of the work that we want to do in East Africa.
I got you. Okay, so for the person who listens to this episode and feels that their circumstances has disqualified them, what do you want them to know?
I got one question for you, whoever
Yes,
is
ma'am.
listening.
Oh,
What is wrong with Jesus?
ooh, that's good.
You can answer that, coach.
I ain't nothing wrong with him.
So
He's
what's wrong
everything.
with you?
Exactly. You just got to go to the right source. That's basically. Okay, what is one courageous action someone can take this week? We just answered it. To stop living from a rented identity and begin reclaiming their real self.
Yeah,
That's-
I would say this. If what is the one thing that you could change in your life that could change everything? You can start with your standards.
Okay. Ooh, standards. Ooh, raise them. Yes.
And your
Yes.
standards, you don't need no money to change that. You can't tell me you can't have no excuses because yes, you might not be able to change your neighborhood, but you could change your standards.
Yes. I like that. Okay. So when the 17-year-old girl who was told your future is illegal looks at the woman you are today,
Mm,
what do you hope she sees?
a beautiful soul,
A beautiful soul. Okay.
a kind
So,
one too.
no.
Hopefully,
Look,
hopefully she sees that.
that was good. That was very good. Okay, so I hope y'all got a lot from this episode today. Can you tell us where my listeners can get in contact with you, your socials, your
Yeah.
website, everything?
Yeah, so you can visit me on www.inspireeverylife.org to learn more about my coaching consulting business. And then if you want to learn more about the humanitarian work that we're doing and keep up with that, you can visit www.tsion, Tsion, the letter B, speaks.com.
Okay, guys. So y'all heard it from her. Check out all her socials. I'm gonna put the links in the description for this episode, so don't worry about that. Y'all already know what I like to say. Stay real, stay raw, stay grounded in your faith, and walk boldly in your purpose. Until the next time, y'all. I'm out.
Thank you, Coach.